Welcome back, guys, to the Beyond Condition podcast, the voice of bodybuilding. And if you are watching on YouTube, you will see my t shirt, Big G, the magical pixie. And this was gifted to me from one of my clients, Elle. And I am the Big G. Because if you know me, of course, my saying is my G. And I love that. I love it. And it's something that is universal for the vibe. When the vibe is caught, for sure, we want to capitalize on that. And that brings me into today's episode, a conversation I had. And these episodes are really, really going down so well, and it makes me extremely happy because, of course, guys, I am here to serve you. And every time you guys get in touch to say that these episodes are doing what I want them to do, resonating with you, it means the absolute world to me. So, the conversation I had was actually with someone that you guys will know if you've been listening to the podcast for a while, Jack Richardson, who came on as a guest in December last year, so nearly a year ago. And he also joined me for one of the community webinars. Now, when we did our podcast, we hit it off and it was like, whoa, there's so many commonalities between us and a lot of things that we essentially talk about because we have formulated a very close relationship and we've just formulated this bond of trust and honesty, and it's something that I cannot preach enough. And what do I always say, guys? When you are investing time in people in your life and formulating your close circle, get people that will call you out on your bullshit. And this is something that Jack and I do very easily, very regularly, because that's how we do. And it's so important, guys. You know, Jack called me out for a really tough time in my life, and I won't go into it too much, but with his input, I was able to sort my shit out, and I will never ever forget that. And something I also reference is not forgetting the people that show up and that help you really develop as a person and or bodybuilder. Don't forget those pivotal people in your life that see you, and it's so important to have that gratefulness. I truly believe in myself, in my moral compass, and that's why I want to be able to essentially share that because I just truly believe that it's something we should not ever forget. Now, the conversation we had, and you'll see in the description, I was like, wow, Jack, thank you so much for reminding me of this time in my life because you know what it's like. Life goes fast. It's like, whoa, that was X amount of time ago. Fucking hell, I forgot about that. And I love the opportunity to be able to do that. And Jack and I do that very, very well. We spark each other's thought processes to go, I remember when I did this, G. And I love that. I really, really love that. And we were talking about training intensity, and we stumbled across the origins of your training. And what do I mean by that? And I feel like this is a very important topic for you guys if you are bodybuilders, because training intensity is absolutely bespoke to you. Who have you learnt from? Where have you learnt from? What do you consume? The list goes on. What is training hard to you? Do you train hard? How is your training formulated? And like I say, who do you learn from? And the conversation we had, I actually reflected on a period of time in my life where I actually took tuition from a strongman. A strongman at the top of his game. He'd won multiple titles, and it was a very cathartic time for me. And that's where I then believe I formulated how to train hard and how to execute, particularly the compound lifts that are involved with strongman. And that's when I really truly understood what it feels like to be taxed from a CNS standpoint. Now, I know I've spoken about CNS before, so your central nervous system on the podcast. And I actually had a couple of people reach out and say, I don't really understand what CNS means. I don't understand the central nervous system. But essentially, what I learned during this time was committing to strongman training. It's And the best way to describe it is when you are taxed from a CNS standpoint in this type of setup, you're literally fucked. And I often reference it as the stuffing has been removed. If you were a teddy bear, the stuffing has been removed. You can experience high levels of fatigue. You can experience low mood. You can experience sleep disruption, a multitude of things. Of course, muscle DOMs. When we are training as bodybuilders, depending on your training, your CNS is going to be taxed ordinarily. So, and this is how I reference it with clients. So, as a bodybuilder, I truly believe that we are taxed all the time from what we do. And that's not just prep. A lot of people get it twisted that we just, go to war in prep or whatever you want to call it. These sayings, I've called them out in the past, guys, in the trenches and all of this. It's, it's humor for what we do. But what you've got to realize, guys, is in my opinion, you should be getting after it at all times. You absolutely should. In my mind, off season is savage. Training is savage in all phases, every single phase. For me, every session is so hard, but it of course applies in different ways depending on, what stage of your bodybuilding journey you are in. And I really do believe that we should never forget that because we're bodybuilders, right? So training should be taken seriously every single session, even when I'm feeling like fucking shit. Training is my day is set up to get the best training session I can. And what I learned from essentially the strongman training was how to train hard, as I say, and how to execute. And I remember, and this was a pivotal time for me, that thanks to Jack's probing, as it were, and bringing out my thought processes, I was like, wow, this period of time in my life was so fucking cool. So essentially, what happened was in an off season, and I actually did a post tonight about accepting my body. And, that's covered in a lot of the different podcasts that I put out. But I absolutely would struggle in off season with my body image for sure, more so than in a prep. I didn't like pushing up. I really didn't like it. I didn't feel comfortable in my skin. So essentially, what I did was I started working with this strongman PT and I funneled my focus into becoming essentially a performance athlete, as it were. And I wanted a motivation in my off season that was outside of just feeling like, oh, you're getting fat, you look like shit. I'm gonna play it straight. I promote honesty always, and that's what I always felt. And what this did was it opened up for me a a new vision in off season. How hard can I train? What muscle can I gain? What can I do in off season to attribute to physique progression? And I stumbled across this organically. Anyway, I started to do the strongman training and learn the lifts. And then there was this talk of like, right, so we could build into 1 rep maxes on the compound lifts. And the one that really I feel brought out in me something that nothing else ever has really was deadlifting. Now, for me, you'll know my past. I have a chronic injury. I have degenerative discs in my lower back. And on reflection, it didn't help my back condition. However, I learned a lot. We make these decisions, we learn, we do these things and we move on and take what we want to from these experiences. And we built up to doing deadlift 1 rep maxes. So I had a set timeline in place for my off season. So before the next prep was going to begin, the idea was to get up to 100 kilograms as a 1 rep max for deadlift. Now, for me, that is heavy. I know there might be people listening thinking that's fuck all. But, you got to stay in your lane. That for me was always, very, very heavy. And it was a personal achievement for me to be able to start thinking about that, even in itself, to go into the depths of scaring the shit out of myself to be able to do that. So we would train, we would do 1 rep maxes every couple of weeks. And I was saying this to Jack, I'd go to bed the night before, shitting a brick, fearing the session. I'd wake up nervous. I'd find it hard to essentially compose myself. There was a lot of nervous energy around this. I know I'd walk to the gym and I'd be thinking, am I going to get this lift? I'd be listening to, of course, Eminem, because that is, I'm sure a lot of people resonate with Eminem. And I'd be walking along. I've described this before. This little girl in Bognor Regis, a small town. Not many bodybuilders in the close proximity. And I'd be walking along, and I had the walk I'd go to the gym. I would have had my pre-workout meal, and I'd be, contemplating, am I going to get this lift? And this was just before going into a prep, as I say, and it was like, this is my last chance to get the 1 rep max on 100 kg. And I remember I went into the toilet and I was tearing up. I was crying. I was fucking nervous. I didn't know what to do. I went for a piss, but I couldn't piss. And I'm thinking, if I don't get this lift outright, I have failed. I failed. It's as simple as that. And that's what I love about this discipline, guys, is the strongman, the powerlifting. If you don't get the lift, you failed. And I like that because it's a pressure. Personally, for me, it's performance related. And I went in and we do this and it was super fucking cool. So we do this where it's like put the chalk on. He'd like shout at me to rev me up, as it were. And he was a very, very placid guy. And he'd be like, come on now, we're gonna fucking get this lift. Let's fucking go. And it would be the whole gym would, be I'd be consumed as I'm this one person and the bar is there. And he taught me how to approach the bar, how to approach the deadlift. You can see, guys, I'm getting excited by this because it's brought back such fond memories. I could burst right now because, reflecting on this is cathartic, as I say. And you go down, you take the bar, and I got the lift. And I feel like this moment is coming into me right now in my spirit, in my soul. I ripped that bar and I got that lift. I took the bar down, we execute it, to drop the lift. Once you get just below the knees, you can essentially still guide it down but drop the bar. And I literally fell onto the PT, burst out in tears, crying. I fell to the floor and I was crying. And oh, it's sparking the emotion in me now. I I don't know if I'd ever felt that before. A sense of belonging, a sense of I did it. I fucking did it. I got that lift that had been cursing me for so long. And I cried my heart out. And he hugged me and he said to me, I've never seen passion like that. And that's a different discipline, guys. It's not bodybuilding. And I knew when I went back into prep, I couldn't continue that type of lifting. I talk about the CNS. It's not what we're going to do in a prep in my mind. And albeit my back was fucked after that. I remember it. It was frozen. I had to lay on the floor. I was ice packing, ibuprofen, all of that. But nothing took away from that moment, guys. That passion, never felt it like that until, of course, winning my first show, etc. And passion ignited through bodybuilding. But wow. And what this reflection has done, this conversation I had, has made me feel incredibly grateful for the people that have influenced my life and my training. It's helped me bring that gratitude into reality right now to go, that helped me learn training intensity. When you literally, it's like, and you guys will resonate, if you're very passionate about bodybuilding, it's like life or death. And that's what it felt like getting that lift. As I say, if I don't get this lift, I've failed. I have to go through a prep knowing that I cannot go back to that session and get that lift. I'm now going into a calorie deficit to be able to, if I wanted to in the next off season, to be able to build up to that again. That's, could be years. I also knew that it would not be good for my back, and that's hard. There's certain things when you get injuries as bodybuilders, guys, that fucking suck. They suck like nothing else. It's very, very hard. Very hard when you're injured, when you have surgery, all of these things. And I knew it was not good for me throughout the whole time of doing it, but I still did it because I wanted to, I chose to. And if you hear these words and you understand, you'll get it. Not everyone will, and that's fine. But my life depended on that lift. And now, as I say, I feel like gratefulness, but I can reflect on that as someone as a positive influence in my life. He believed in me. He believed in me. He said, "You're going to get this fucking lift. Get the lift." It was, what you see at strongman competitions. The music was on, like it, and the whole world came to a standstill in that moment. And what I want to, essentially try and get across to you guys is that it's important to have positive role models in your life that not only believe in you, but push you to where you don't believe you can be. And that's what I believe is coaching. That's what I believe is having people in your life that will call you out on your bullshit, that will remember parts of you that you've maybe forgotten at times, that will remind you as well of who you are, of who you are when you're in darkness. Who are those people? And I've got a handful, if that, that remind you of what your light is, that remind you of hope and what you're capable of. Who are those people? Because if you've got people in your life like that, hold on to them and remember how much they help you. And this is even maybe an urge for you guys to perhaps get in contact with someone or thank someone for the impact they've had on your life, because that training intensity is carried through the rest of my bodybuilding career. That has helped me formulate my why when it comes to the gym. What is my why? Why do I walk into the gym? I'm not there to chat. I'm not there to make friends. I'm there to work. I've got a job to do. And Jack and I have had conversations about this as well. It's like I don't know what other people's opinions and impressions are of me, but I'm not at a point in my life right now where I need to worry about people's opinions when I'm in the gym, when I'm training. If I'm not someone that, chats for 2 hours or what, I don't want to do that. That's not my place to do that. However, what I will say is, and at destination, we have a fingerprint. So we go through, train, and then come out the barriers. Before I go into the gym, on the way there, I'm listening to my music. I'm getting in the headspace I need to. I also do mantras in the evening before I run through in my mind what the next day session is. I get myself ready for that. I'll still talk to people before I go through that finger swipe. I'm not rude. I will still speak to people. And when I come out, I'm back to who I am sitting here right now. And I will make time for people. I also, sometimes within a session, I will allow some extra time to talk to people that I know in the gym, people that have become friends, and I'll allocate time for that. But generally speaking, it's headphones on, eyes closed a lot of the time, guys, mid set. But I'm there to do a job. I absolutely am. And that's my why within the gym. And I don't need to question that. I'm not there to be a yes man. I'm not there to think about other people. And I'm not trying to be rude here. I'm not trying to be arrogant. If you know me, and most of you do by now, it's not my vibe. However, I cannot neglect the importance of training if I want to pursue physique development. I can't let myself down. I can't, because every single session counts and it does. And I want you to think about that also. When you go to the gym, what does that mean to you? Because for me, that's my only really period of time where it's just me and me. And that's me working on myself. And that's an important message when we think about the origins of our training, why we train, why we bodybuild. And this is not me saying you shouldn't talk to people. If you want to do that, that is up to you. This is a reminder of what you want your gym to look like, what you want your training to look like. And that is something to think about. You know that it's in my role as your podcast host to thought provoke. And that's what I always want to do. And I hope that it's useful. Because if you want true physique progression, what do we need to do, guys? We need to be a bodybuilder. We absolutely do. And there's times where, you go into the gym and you think, bloody hell, and this is in all phases, I feel like shit. But I don't know if I can pull it out the bag for this session. But most of us will still pull it out the bag. When I leave the gym, I want to feel that I didn't leave anything on the table. I don't want to, and I've done this plenty of times. If I didn't quite get a PB, I go inside and I'm like, fuck, what could I have done better here? Could I have, structured my day differently? What was it? Is there signs that I'm needing to pull back a bit? Could I have timed something better? Like I go in and I go through this in my own mind, and it's something that I feel you can gather over experience. But I truly do believe that this is our time, guys. The gym and what we do. And I always want to promote that. I always do. Because training intensity, training execution, these do come with time, but they can also come with the ability to reach out and have those positive role models in your life. Perhaps train with people that are more advanced in the game than you. Be humbled. I always believe that if you're going to go in to train with someone that you maybe see as on a pedestal, or you get an offer in to train with someone that you think, holy shit, I can't train with them, go for it. Be humbled. Accept where you're at on your journey. We all start somewhere, but where you want to be, who you want to become, is that going to be fueled by spending time with people that can help you do that? And if you can go in and just go, this is me, I'm here for tuition, you can take a hell of a lot from that. And I hope that this episode is a nice little reminder for a few things there, guys, and for you to get that brain working in different ways. Because as I say, that's always what I want to do, what I like to do. And I'm incredibly grateful to be in your ears, as always, my people. So, a conversation I had. Number six, seven is coming. And I already know what I'm going to talk about. I'm not going to tell you though. I'm going to keep it to myself. So, over and out from the big G, the magical pixie. What more can I say, guys? Thank you for listening, and I will speak to you real soon.